Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Feño from the Fight Side, and this is the full preview for UFC 304. We have the rematch between Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. This is going on Manchester, England this Saturday. And it's a pretty stacked card. We have 14 fights. We'll be talking about every single one of them as is our custom now. Excuse me if I'm not in like the best mood. Had some personal stuff going on this week, but we'll try to have fun as we usually do. And yeah, I mean, let's get into the fights. We have a lot of fights to talk about. So for all of you that are listening to the recorded version, remember that I'm streaming this podcast live and you can get to interact. The parts where I interact with the chat will not be on the recording version, so if you like that, you can always check the pre-recorded one. Let's get right into the fights. The opener of the night is a fight between women's strawweights. We have Shauna Bannon against Alice Ardelean. And let me get... Okay, so let's begin with Bannon. Bannon is a taekwondo-based striker. She fights out of a bouncy stance, mostly behind her dexterous lead leg, that she uses to land constant side kicks and play the changeup of no wind-up chamber kicks to all three levels, complementing her lead side kicks with spins and switches to southpaw to land rear power kicks, particularly to the body. She is aggressive but has struggled with longer fighters, or if she doesn't control kicking range. Her boxing is lacking, and while she can time her blitzes to line strand punches with authority, her defense inside the pocket is suspect as she doesn't move her head or take angles very well. Her defense relies mostly on her control of distance, using her in and out movement, and she's also good at moving on the outside, having some semblance of cagecraft. In the clinch and on the ground, she hasn't been tested much, but looks to be at least competent, pummeling for grips inside the clinch and having some trips on the inside. She also looks capable of her back with both aggressive submission attempts and get-ups. Ground pound has looked solid from top, and she's overall a good scrambler, training under Paddy Holohan. A decent athlete, seems like her style could struggle against bigger and more athletic fighters in the UFC. Opposed to her, we have Ardelean, a well-rounded and athletic fighter. She seems to have a well put together, if shallow skill set. On the feet, she's usually feinting the jab or kicks, or measuring and framing with her lead hand, looking to put together short combinations that she punctuates with an inside leg kick. She's aggressive and will extend combinations if she doesn't see shots coming back. Though there's not much in the way of combination punching, but her alternating left and rights can still overwhelm opponents. Her physical strength and solid takedown defense come in handy when flurrying opponents, as she's good at grabbing underhooks during transitions and quickly shrugging off opponents who try to tie up to avoid exchanges. She's also solid at reversing bad clinch takedowns to achieve top position of her own. When it comes to defense, she defaults to backing up most of the time, even though she has shown some ability to hide behind her lead shoulder and use an active high guard when faced with combinations. From top position, she has good posture and passes, and her ground pound is punishing. Other than that, not much has been seen of her grappling and wrestling against good competition. I expected the UFC to give Bannon an easier fight, but this could end up being quite competitive, as Ardelean, despite her record, is on a decent streak, is athletic, aggressive, and is a dog. Bannon usually shines when she has control of the kicking range, and while Ardelean employs a good amount of kicks and has pop with them, I expect the Irish fighter to be more crafty and resourceful in open space. Ardelean could get things done moving forwards and being aggressive, and the grappling could also end up tipping the scale in the favor of either fighter. But I'm picking the semi-local to edge it on the scorecards. The pick is Bannon. She wins a decision. Okay, let me get back into the chat. Who we have? Rio Sosen. Hello, Mr. Feño. Hey, glad to have you here. James Kendrick, my guy. Hello. He says, do you like that Bannon is overhyped by the Super MMA boys? Irish MMA? Yeah, I think Bannon is like alright. But I think she will struggle in the UFC because she has like a very athletic style, and I don't think she's that good of an athlete. I mean, she's alright, right? But strawweight has a lot of good athletes that are like more complete fighters. So I don't think Bannon will get like super far in the UFC. Her debut was not very encouraging, to be honest, against Brasil, who Brasil was like also a kicker, but she was like bigger, more powerful. So that was kind of rough, right? Rio Sosan asks, how did you find film on Ardelean? Not on OnlyFans. Apparently she's like famous because she's like an OnlyFans girl, and she has a very famous TikTok account. but no, I found a lot of her fights, including her Yang Wei Li fight. I found those on YouTube, to be honest. I think there's one fight of her in Fight Pass. Who else we have? Kobe, oh my god, hi Faye. Hey my dude, how are you? Ready for the house. Send some fire emojis. I always appreciate the fire emojis. Okay, we'll catch up with the chat right now. I'll take some drinks and we'll get to the second fight. Okay. Which one is the next? The heavyweights. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you for the support. From strawweight, we move all the way up to heavyweight. We have a fight between Parkin and Brzeski. Let's begin with the hometown guy, Parkin. Parkin is a well-rounded kickboxer. He fights out of a light lead foot stance, stalking his opponents at range, using the changeup of his solid jab and quick inside low kick to set up fierce layer counters or start combinations. He likes to control the pace of the fight with safe strikes, like the ones mentioned, and feints, but his output can be inconsistent and he gets too picky with his shots. Nonetheless, Parkin is solid defensively at range with decent footwork and moves his head decently well when controlling exchanges. He can be hittable inside the pocket as his head movement isn't consistent past the third punch, and his punching mechanics get wider the deeper into an exchange he goes. Inside the clinch he is fine, fighting for underhooks and using good head positioning to turn opponents to defense, and he's the owner of a solid snatch single leg to get fights to the ground. His grappling isn't spectacular, but it's functional, but has failed to hold opponents down who refuse to accept position. From his back, he has shown good ability to wrestle up with the single leg, including using the deep half to create space. He's big for the division and well conditioned. His lack of second gear and a time low output are his biggest flaws. Opposed to him, we have Brzeski, a lanky kickboxer. He's an active striker that likes to fight behind his leg kicks and lead hand, which more than to jab, he uses to measure and draw the high guard. Most of his best connections come from his right hand, as he plays the change-up between the uppercut and the right hook when he gets foes to put their guard up. He attacks in combination and goes to the body a decent amount. His footwork is a bit wonky, but he makes sure to angle going back and can pressure well when moving forwards. He tends to shift a lot to close distance, and that could leave him vulnerable. He can slip the initial punch when he's controlling the exchange, but most of his defense is about leaning back or backing up. Takedown defense has constantly been an issue, and while he can work his way back to his feet, the get-ups can drain his cardio. His grappling looks to be functional, but he relies too much on turtling to get back to his feet. His conditioning is fine, all things considered, and he is tough, but his shallow defense and lack of takedown defense don't mix well with his average power on the feet. On the feet, this could be interesting as Brzeski is busy enough to trouble Parkin, especially because he attacks in combinations and can expose the lack of defense of the Brit inside the pocket. That being said, Parkin is still the cleaner striker on the outside, and more importantly, will have the wrestling and size advantage, without the lack of a gas tank to allow Brzeski to get back into the fight. Parkin gets the submission in the second. That's my pick. Let's cut up with the chat. Kobe, you know I'm still sure you follow all MMA sober. Yeah, I do not drink alcohol at all. So every time you see me watching like the worst fight of all time, just remember that I'm sober when I'm doing that. We have Danton, my dude. Thank you so much for being here, my guy. We have the Dan Clan here. Oh yeah, guys, please hit the like button. Ghost, Parkin versus Brzeski. This must be the comedy part of the card. I would love to see Brzeski shipping combo while Parkin is trying to throw an inside low kick. That's probably going to happen, Ghost, because Parkin throws so much inside low kicks. He has like a pretty decent. He has like a pretty decent inside low kick, to be honest. Parkin does. Brzeski like shifts a lot. Do you use heavyweight prelims for piece breaks? Actually, I watch all the fights because I'm a fucking psycho, and actually I get paid to watch fights, so I watch all the fights. I do not take like piece breaks. I mean, who the fuck goes to pee for like 25 minutes, right? Yeah, you should be scared of me, actually. James Kendricks, what app do you use to record MMA fights? I'm on Mac, and I usually just use QuickTime to record the screen of whatever I'm watching. I usually do not like download video. I just screen grab whatever because the quality is super good. The only downfall is that it doesn't have audio, but since I share like most of the clips on Twitter and people do not listen to those clips anyway, I just post without audio, right? Okay, I'm caught up with the chat. The next one is the welterweight. How do you avoid copyright strikes? I have been I have had some copyright strikes. What I usually do is that I do not post like pay-per-view main card clips for at least like a month. So, for example, next week I'm not posting anything from the main card of this pay-per-view. The UFC is mostly fine when you post like prelim stuff, and then when some time has passed, you're fine to post it. But for example, I had a video of explaining the finishing sequence of Volkanovski versus Jair Rodrigues, and that one like on Sunday after the Saturday, and that one got taken down immediately. So if you want to post like current stuff, I think the animation thing that Ghost does, that's tremendous, because that's like obviously a way to avoid copyright, and it looks super cool, man. I love those animations by Ghost. Okay, let's get into the next one. Which one is? Okay, it's this one's right. They changed the order of the fights, so I'm finding between my notes where the fights are. I'm going by topology order. I'm not sure if this order is right, but whatever, I'm going by this. Next, we have a welterweight bout. It is between Sam Paterson and Kiefer Crosbie. So Paterson, a tall and long striker. Paterson likes to attack in open space with long 1-2s and leg kicks, constantly feigning to disguise his attacks, and he likes framing off punches to attack with knees and kicks. He has been vulnerable to loopy shots as he hangs his chin out in the air. He mostly wants opponents to close distance to fade back in an angle and try to land the straight rear hand. Paterson uses his frame inside the clinch well to find knees and elbows, but is less effective with his back against the cage. Over the distance, his most reliable tool for defense is looking for tie-ups, and he does good use of his length to find reactive collar ties, but he can be vulnerable during breaks. A good sprawl from which he can transition to his headlock game, being the owner of a good series of guillotine, power guillotine, and dart strokes. He's also good at taking the back from the front headlock, and has a threatening rear naked choke and arm triangle changeup. His defense during prolonged wrestling exchanges at a high level remain unknown, especially now at welterweight. He has good cardio. We still don't know if his durability has improved with his move to 170. Against him, we have Kiefer Crosbie, an SBG fighter. Crosbie alternates between a front foot heavy stance to close distance with jabs, rear straight, and shifting entries, and a light lead upright stance when put on the defensive to check kicks and keep distance with his tip. He also alternates between being very aggressive and sitting back. A decently well-rounded fighter, he is competent everywhere, can put his hands together in combinations, compete at kicking range, clinch, and grapple. He's easily strong in the clinch, but not much of an offensive wrestler, having some trips inside the clinch, and will drop to the legs from time to time. Grappling from top position is a strong point with solid positioning and solid fundamentals, known from SBG fighters when it comes to grappling. Ground and pound, conditioning, and toughness are his best attributes. Head movement and defense overall have consistently been his major flaws, coupled with his inability to control at what ranges fights are contested. Crosbie once again finds himself in a fight with a big reach deficit. He has some avenues, especially when he gets aggressive with his combination punching, as Paterson has tall man defense and can leave his chin hanging in the air. That said, Paterson has a solid jab and range tools to keep the fight at range, with decent power himself, and if Crosbie tries and sloppy takedowns, his front headlock series should give him safe or even give him an advantage. Paterson catches a submission in the second round. That's my pick. Alright. Paterson versus Crosbie? Yeah, that's the fight. Do you prefer clinch and tie-ups over just moving back defense? I mean, I feel like people demonize moving back a little bit. I feel like it is fine. The problem with moving back is that it cannot be your only way of defense, right? Because it doesn't accomplish anything for you. If you're a good clincher or you have a good entries to the clinch, yeah, I would prefer a clinch entries over moving back. But moving back is efficient because it's not very draining, especially mentally. You don't have to think much about it. You just see a threat coming and you just move back. You can do like you can do that like here and there to just like catch your breath, reset, that kind of stuff. But if all you do is always moving back at any strike, yeah, you get predictable. You can get like corral. You expose yourself to shifting strikes to put your back against the fence. So yeah, I don't think like moving back is necessarily bad, but it should not be the only mechanism of defense that you have going on. What fights in the prelims compel me? Apparently Kape versus Mokaev is on the prelims, and that one should be like maybe not super good as a fight, but it's obviously like very compelling, very important. I would hope that one to be on the main card, but I guess they're making space for the actual English people. They're discriminating against Mokaev here, even though he fights for England, right? Loughran versus Hadley is a cool fight. Kind of sucks that Hadley is taking this like a weight class up and short notice, but it's alright. Molly McCann versus Brasil, I expect to be like good action. And Nathaniel Good versus Daniel Pineda is going to be fucking insane. That one is like the one that I'm most looking for on the prelims. Okay, we'll move to the next fight. And the next fight is like Mokaev versus Kape, actually, according to... Yeah, Mokaev fights for England. I think the UFC has this weird thing where fighters cannot choose where they represent. They are always shown with the flag of their country. So they put a Russian flag for Mokaev, but I think like Mokaev himself chooses to represent England. He's with a Union Jack on Topology. But the UFC. I'm not even a Mokaev fan. Like I'm always rooting against him, but he's like obviously an elite fighter. Like why This is a very important fight. Why would you not put him in the main card? Insane that if the topology order and they actually have him in the prelims, it's like insane. Like, do you understand who this is, right? Okay, let's get into that fight anyway. I'll begin recording. Next, we have a flyweight bout. It's a very important one between Mohamed Mokaev and Manel Kape. And I lost my notes. So give me a second. Okay, excuse me for that. Let's begin with Mokaev. A big and athletic wrestler, Mokaev used to mostly pressure opponents to the fence with flashy strikes like big kicks, but he has been still improving his fundamentals, in particular quick straight shots with his hands and more efficient roundhouse kicks. Once on the fence, he's a relentless and versatile wrestler with a mix of leg attacks and clinch throws with seamless transitions from one to the other. Long and strong for the weight class, he can achieve top control in a variety of positions but tends to favor rights with wrist control. Very good at mat returns, especially from back body lock. He has had trouble putting together ground and pound while maintaining control, though he has seemed to be working on being more aggressive and just letting positions go to land transition strike instead of ending up in a stalling position. And he has a very good arsenal of submissions that he usually finds late in inside fights. He can get reversed during sub-attempts, and that's where he has looked his most vulnerable, as he has good attacks off his back, but he can be stuck in bottom position if he's denied the opportunity to wrestle up from his knees. Mokaev is very mentally tough and well-conditioned, has constantly shown the ability to fight hard when things get tough. His striking defense remains his most apparent flaw, but it has been hard to exploit because of his pace and wrestling attacks. Opposed to him, we have Manel Kape, an athletic and well-rounded extreme couture product. Kape has versatility to his movement and actions. Good footwork, eyes, feigning, and the aforementioned physicality allow him to be effective on the back foot, neutral space, or pressuring, and he can adjust his tools accordingly. Be it walking forwards or sitting back, he does most of his best work on the counter, looking to slip off his jab and come back with quick combinations. A capable combination puncher, Kape has power in both hands and can also find spots for heavy leg kicks and a tricky flying knee that is well hidden thanks to his constant hip feints. A decent grappler and wrestler, Kape is usually quick to fight grips early during shots and is good at using his footwork to deny opportunities. That said, he has seen sketchy moments defending takedowns, especially when he has been surprised mid-exchange. But he's a good patient scrambler and has a variety of Kimura attacks to generate space. Kape has been inconsistent in his career, but when he has made it to the cage lately, he has been on point. The biggest problem for Kape is the ease at which he allows his opponents to decide the directionality and pace of a fight, and that means he can have trouble taking over or putting the stamp on performances in which he's not the vastly superior athletically or tactically fighter. Kape has a lot of tools to make this one interesting, especially with the form that he has shown in later performances. Even though he tends to make things close, his footwork, versatility, grip fighting, and above all his confidence might allow him to expose the flaws in Mokaev's striking, especially if he puts his combination boxing to good use and attacks the body. That being said, Mokaev will not just allow him to have a competitive fight at range, as he will look to constantly take the fight to the ground and could very well frustrate Kape like we have seen earlier in his career. While Kape needs a perfect fight to win, I think Mokaev doing his usual thing will have too much resources when it comes to takedowns. And I will have answers to the counters of Kape will have to his wrestling. So I think that Mokaev will once again get a submission on the third round. Okay, back to the... Have you ever been a victim of Mokaev defense for on Twitter? I saw Yaxak get attacked by his backers when he says funny things about it. I think a long time ago, like when he fought Energy, Charles Johnson, and that fight was like the worst fight of all time. I think I talked like mad crap about Mokaev, and not like even being bad, just like saying that he's boring. And yeah, I got some people getting mad about that. But like the craziest people for me at least have been like John Jones fans and the Colby Covington fans. Those are some weird fuckers. Like there are some weird guys out there. Okay. Okay, let's move right to the next one. Yeah, I don't know where the John Jones fans come from. Like they're so invested in fucking John Jones, and like he's like, first he's a douchebag, and second he's not that good. Like Prime John Jones was very good, don't get me wrong, but he was never like, you know, right? He was beating middleweights people. Wake up. One of his best wins is like 36 years old Rashad Evans, right? That's one of John Jones' best wins. Like I rate John Jones wins over like DC and Glover Teixeira. I think those are very, very solid. But like most of John's career has been like kind of mid. Kind of mid, right? Oh my god. And because like everything goes so well for John Jones, it's like maybe like Curtis Blaydes will get a win. Because like, of course, like Tom Aspinall is talking shit to John Jones, and now everything will go wrong for Tom Aspinall because like the world likes John Jones so fucking much, right? Anyway, let me get that Ovan Elliott fight. Where do I have that one? Oh yeah, if Blaydes win, like John Jones is going to talk mad shit about Tom Aspinall, and people are going to like overrate John Jones even more, despite the fact that he's not fighting. But they will say, oh, see, John Jones is a goat just because another fighter lost. That's the kind of logic that John Jones fans have, right? Let me check a little few things. Okay, let's go to the next one. We're back at welterweight. We have a fight between Ovan Elliott and Preston Parsons. Let's begin with Ovan Elliott. He's a transition-based fighter. Elliott likes to operate at open space, switching stances, mostly behind big kicks to the body and legs, only getting the hands going where he has a good grasp on timing and distance. But he can put competent short combinations together. He likes having real estate behind him to back up from any incoming attacks, but he does a good job of circling to avoid the cage. Elliott uses his kicks and stance switches to disguise his takedown entries, and he's a capable wrestler, getting clean on the hits at open space or pushing opponents to the fence and chaining attempts. Top control is not great, but his wrestling and pace allow him to pressure and suffocate opponents and eventually get to more dominant positions like the back. And once he has settled positions, he has good ground and pound, particularly with his elbows. Elliott is very well conditioned and insanely tough, plus he's a good athlete, but he can be predictable on the feet if he doesn't find good takedown entries, and his defense on the feet is shallow. He can also lack a second gear in case of his pace not being enough to dominate a fight by itself. Against him we have Parsons, a wrestle kickboxer who thrives in transitions too. Parsons mostly likes to move around in open space, using his kicks on all three levels to set up entries for combinations, takedowns, or to open up opponents for counters. His hard inside leg kick is useful to unbalance opponents and follow up with strike or clinch entries. He has solid boxing combinations. He moves his head side to side during entries and usually ends up in the clinch. In the clinch he's active, be it wrestling or looking for a strike, and he will punch to the body or look for big knees and elbows, but he can be vulnerable during breaks. A solid offensive wrestler, Parsons sets his shots at range decently well, but usually relies on chaining attempts to get the fight to the mat. usually using the single leg to drive opponents to the fence, where he has an effective single leg series, changing up between running the pipe, high cross lifts, trips, and double legs. He's not great at maintaining top control, especially early in fights, but he's good at flowing during scrambles, fighting strikes during transitions, and using his mat return game to tire opponents. Takedown defense is not great, but he's good at wrestling up from half guard and lacing up the legs. Parsons can be inconsistent and usually needs his transition game to flow to take over fights. He can have trouble with fighters matching him everywhere or keeping him stuck in a particular area. Good cardio and toughness. An interesting fight between transition-based pace fighters. This seems very well matched, but I feel like Parsons has some key advantages, especially when it comes to boxing and wrestling, which makes me side with him. Elliott has a chance with his big kicks, and the scrambling nature of both fighters means the result can depend on a few reversals going a certain way. But I have trouble seeing Elliott taking over with kicks, pace, and wrestling when Parsons can match him or surpass him in his preferred areas. Parsons wins a decision. That's my pick. James Kendrick says, I really hope that Aspinall wins, so our opinion that Aspinall is the best heavyweight is validated. I just want to know more about Aspinall. I mean, I like Aspinall, fine. But if he happens to just be another heavyweight who just is good at some stuff, I would be fine with that. Hopefully he's very good though. What are some limitations to transition-based fighters like Elliott? So is it possible for them to improve the weak aspect of the style? No, I think I think transition-based fighters can be very good, but I feel like people fall into a bit. This is a personal opinion, of course, but I feel like fighters can fall into a little bit of a trap when it comes to being a transition-based fighter. That means that you gotta be a generalist, right? You gotta be the guy that does everything well, and I don't think that's actually the case. I feel like in MMA, in the current metagame, you still need to be a specialist in some aspects. You gotta be good at some stuff, right? If you see if you see a fighter like Bukauskas, right, that it's somewhat a transition based. I feel like the fights against Max Holloway, where he didn't get the wrestling going, made him more of a striker. But Bukauskas is a very solid transition based fighter. When Bukauskas is stuck at striking range, he has some stuff that he likes to do and he's very good at, right? So just because you like transitions doesn't mean that you have to be mid everywhere. you gotta find if you're stuck on the feet, you gotta know on the feet, this is my game. Even though I do not have the clinch, I do not have takedowns, this is my game, this is what I do well, right? If you go back to GSP, for example, if you go to GSP very transition based, right? To be at his best, GSP needs the takedowns, needs to establish the jab, but he still has his jab outside fighting game when he couldn't get the takedowns. He has a very defined style on the feet, and I feel obviously it's better if you get everything going, but if you go to the very good transition fighters Frankie Edgar, at his prime, Frankie Edgar could beat a lot of fighters just with the boxing and takedown attempts. He didn't need to get the takedowns. The threat of the takedowns was helpful for sure, but he was still a good striker. Same with GSP. So I feel you still need to find a style, and you need to find things that you do well. And I'm just talking about striking because it is easier to explain. But with grappling, it's the same. You cannot be just okay, here's where I take the fight to the ground. Once you're on the ground, you gotta have a game. You gotta have a preference for certain style of passes, for certain submissions. Where are you a right control people? Are you traditional jiu-jitsu positioning type of guy? you gotta have like a game. Like depending on transitions cannot be everything about you. So you gotta like still have some like a specialization going on to be actually good. Would you be happy if the UFC just got 170 and above? I mean, the events would be a lot better, I guess, right? Would I choose for them to just like delete like middleweight, like heavyweight, and no, actually not. I want those divisions to get better. I don't want them to disappear. But if they disappear for whatever reason, I gotta admit, like the product would get like quite a bit better, right? Give me a few seconds right here. Okay, what's the next fight anyway? Oh, we have light heavyweights. Talking about that, we have your boys, the light heavies, the meme guys. This one is like not. I don't expect this one to be like super good, but it's an interesting fight, to be honest. I guess I'll talk about that now. Let me find that one on my notes. Okay. We have a fight at 205 light heavyweight. It's a match between Modestas Bukauskas and Marcin Prachnio. Let's begin with Bukauskas, an outfight kickboxer who kicks and jabs well from both stances. Bukauskas likes to move around in space using his movement and feints to set up kicks or attack in the counter. He has decent footwork on the outside, but his movement can be a bit too wide, and that can be concerning against good pressure fighters. He can kick effectively from both legs at all three levels, and is not afraid to mix in a spinning attack here and there. When it comes to countering, he can use his leg kicks on entries and likes his wide lead hook, either as a check or a follow-up to his rear hand. He can be vulnerable backing up when he doesn't remember to take angles, but incoming foes need to be careful with his sneaky short counters while moving back. Same time counters have been a problem as he doesn't move his head, and his movement-based style has left him vulnerable to body attacks. He is solid, if unspectacular in the clinch, with decent strength, able to pummel for underhooks, and will dig hard knees to the body given the space. From his back, he's also functional with a solid guard and patience to find spots to kick on the hips and use the guard to get back up. Bukauskas is well conditioned and tough, but he can be vulnerable when he gets too aggressive, and he's shaky and can't doubt himself when not finding success. Prachnio, a fellow switch stance kicker, Prachnio, who comes from a Kyokushin background, operates well from open space, using his variety of kicks to keep distance, attacking all three levels with good volume, and will move forwards looking for overhands against retreating opponents. If opponents try to close the long distance he establishes, he's always ready to fire the right hand or a check hook from either stance. Same time counters and combinations have been the common factor to hurt him, as his shallow defense gets exposed when he overstays his welcome inside the pocket. Inside the clinch, he will fight for underhooks and try to reverse people against the cage, and if he's able to establish head positioning, he's active with knees to the body and head. Other than that, there's not much to his game. He's a solid defensive wrestler. Prachnio fights well for underhooks in open space, just like he does inside the clinch, and has a very heavy sprawl to deny shots. Prachnio is tough and keeps a good pace, but his cardio in tough fights can be lacking, and his lack of a second gear can make it hard for him to take over fights. This one is basically a mirror match between kickers who prefer hanging out at neutral space. Prachnio is the more active fighter, offering more volume, and might have a slight edge when it comes to kick variety and immediate setups, but I feel like Bukauskas has a solid edge on figuring out the fight, and is also the better boxer, and I think that will be decisive here. Bukauskas wins a decision. Hey, we have J. Dilla the Killer here. Thank you for being here, my dude. Rio Sosa, the 205ers, the pain of every analysis existence. Yeah, we have the whole roster. Is Prachnio the guy who kicked William Knight? Yeah, remember when William Knight looked fucking sick? And I don't mean like ill, like I mean he looked fucking great for that fight and he did nothing. And yeah, it was Prachnio, the guy that won that fight. He looked so fucking good. He was like ready to go on stage for like a men's physique. Not even like for a classic bodybuilder competition. Oh, was it Prachnio, the guy that was finished by Sam Alvey? I'm gonna check that one on Topology because I remember a few funny fights by Sam Alvey at Sam Alvey. Oh yeah, the Prachnio one was the very funny one, right? Yeah, he was like, please hit me with the only punch that you know how to throw. And somebody was like, all right. That one was so embarrassing, right? And Samavi's in a 2-fight karate combat winning streak. Like, Jesus Christ, man. What is the next fight anyway? Yeah, I love bad fights because I can say silly shit about them. So I don't have a problem with bad fights. I mean, I have a problem with bad fights, but I guess I don't have as big of a problem as most people. I don't know. Okay, we have bantamweights. We have an actual good division next. So let's get right into that. No, where do I have my notes? Okay. We move down to bantamweight next. We have a fight between Loughran and Jake Hadley. Let's begin with Loughran. A stocky wrestle boxer, at range Loughran likes to stalk his opponents with a grounded stance, feigning with active head movement and using his jab to fill in the gaps while he waits for counters. He likes the cross counter, the check hook, and the right hand off to parry, and usually follows up with short combinations. A hip feint followed by a solid calf kicks and a front snap kicks to the body round up his range striking. While he does a good job of anticipating and countering the initial strike during an exchange, his head can be quite stationary past that, so he can be hittable during prolonged exchanges. The close boxing range he establishes make it easier for him to grab clinches and shoot for takedowns. He transitions well into the clinch, grabbing collar ties and quickly attacking with knees and elbows before changing levels. His wrestling is his A game, and he uses his stocky frame and physical strength to his advantage, getting easy access to the legs and being a competent chain wrestler against the fence, mostly finishing double legs and looking to lace the legs once on the ground immediately. His top control isn't great and has had trouble landing consistent ground and pound while maintaining foes on the ground, but he's content to play the mat return game until he gets to the back. He's dominant from the back using wrist rights to land ground and pound or finishing the rear naked choke. Loughran is physical, tough, and well-conditioned, but he can struggle with fighters who commit to fighting grips early during takedowns, and fighters who can push him back, exposing his defense. Opposed to him, we have Hadley, a quick-hand southpaw boxer. Hadley looks to jab and hide behind a high elbow guard stonewall defense to counter with his left hand. He attacks in combinations and targets the body constantly, particularly with a long rear uppercut that he can sneak inside the pocket and to track retreating opponents. Hadley sprinkles well-placed low kicks at range and is quick to follow up with combinations if he makes his opponent lose their stance. His defense at range is solid with good in and out movement and hiding behind the aforementioned stonewall, but he can be hit mid-combination. He can be surprised with takedowns, particularly when getting overly aggressive pursuing foes, but he is quick to look for guard attacks to either hunt for submissions or generate space to work his way up. If his initial motion is stalled, he can be stuck in bottom position, and if his guard attacks are denied, he tends to resort to turtle and can be vulnerable to mat returns. Despite this, he is a solid scrambler and decent offensive wrestler in his own right. He's capable of taking the back from a variety of positions, and his rear naked choke finish is very solid. Hadley is a big flyweight who is taking this fight up a weight class in short notice. We get an interesting short notice matchup here, as Loughran was expecting to fight Ramon Taveras. Hadley makes his 135 debut in here, and despite having a height and reach advantage, I expect the overall size part of the equation going to the stocky Loughran. On the feet, this should be interesting, as Hadley is the more nuanced boxer with quicker hands and better defense, but Loughran might have an edge when it comes to pop, and the takedown threat might equalize things. The grindy and mat return focused game of Loughran matches up very well against Hadley, who is aggressive from his back but tends to turtle to get back up, and coming on short notice, I doubt he comes well prepared. If it goes long, it could get interesting, especially if Hadley comes conditioned, as his body attacks and his own grappling could be key in turning the fight around. That said, it is hard to pick against the Irish. I think Hadley's own knowledge of the back takes will allow him to survive and see the final bell, but I think Loughran wins a decision. There's a fine line between fights that are bad enough to be funny and fights that are, yep. there are fights that you cannot even like make jokes about that they are so bad. Like the beginning of the event last Saturday, the first 3 fights were so bad. I was so bored. Does he dip to the power side? Yeah. I mean, Loughran is not that much of a hiding the shot behind the overhand. It's more like he likes to box like from pretty close, and then he just changes levels. He does like goes head outside, so there's a little bit of that, but he's not like the classic like archetype of like old school welterweight that used to like go overhand and deep with the head to the left side. But yeah, I mean, I like Loughran. Like, no, he's interesting. He's a bit annoying, I gotta say. I wish Jake Hadley could win this fight, but I doubt he will, to be honest. But it's a cool fight. It just kind of sucks that it's like short notice. And Ramon Taveras, I was very excited to see Ramon Taveras fight because he looks so good in his last fight. But couldn't be. We have a Molly McCann fight, and I think, to be honest, my one of my hottest takes is that Molly McCann is fine. He's not awful. He's okay. He's a decent fighter. That's my hot take of the day. Molly McCann, okay. That's my spicy take. Oh man, I'm all out of Rockstar. That sucks, man. Won't be able to sleep tonight anyway. Okay, this is the 5. Let's begin. We go back to... No, we don't go back. I'm gonna delete that because I'm lying. Next, we have a flyweight bout between Molly McCann and Bruna Brasil. So McCann, a stocky and physical striker, McCann can operate from neutral space and moving forwards. She likes to feint looking for big openings for short combinations. Despite being the owner of a decent jab that she can use to the head and body, she tends to be right hand heavy. Overhands and uppercuts are her main scorers, and she usually follows them with the left hook and some defensive measure, having decent proactive defense inside the clinch and inside the pocket. Kicks to the body and legs and some shifting attacks complement her range striking. McCann is at her best, having her foes reacting to her and making reads to land big strikes. opening up with elbows and knees when she gets big reactions. Her defense at range can be one-dimensional, and she can get carried away getting sloppy when she ups the aggression, but she throws from a balanced stance and has good eyes to see shots coming. Grappling has been her weakness on the past, but the move to 115 and more dedication to grappling might have been the right one, as she looks as a decent offensive wrestler in her last fight, and she looks to be a lot more physically imposing now at strawweight. McCann is very tough, well-conditioned, and looks for offensive answers as fight progresses. She has shown weakness during transitions and grappling historically, and her defense on the feet moving back is also shallow. Opposed to her, we have Brasil, a long karate kick boxer. Brasil likes to operate at open space, utilizing her powerful kicks to maintain range. When opponents are forced to close the distance she imposes, she's quick to fire quick hands. She's athletic, powerful, and carries pop in her hands, but her boxing could use some work, as she tends to hook wide and keep her chin too high up in the air at all times. She moves well around the cage, but can be pressured to the cage with combinations, as she tends to retreat in straight lines when defending. She's decently strong in the clinch and can use her frame well to land elbows and knees, but she can struggle with wrestlers, and her footwork can let her down on the inside. A competent grappler, she has had trouble when put flat on her back, and other than cage walking, submission attempts are her only ways to generate movement off her back. Brasil is athletic and long, but she can have confidence problems when not getting the fight she wants, and she also lacks adaptability, being able to just up the intensity when she finds herself lagging behind. Brasil looks to have a sizable length advantage amplified by her kicking game, but McCann is used to fight with a reach disadvantage, and she has measures like pressuring and infighting to take care of longer foes. Brasil seems particularly susceptible to the boxing combinations of Molly, who will look to use the uppercut to stand her up if she ducks down, to then connect with the overhand when her chin is up high. Brasil could win this if she manages to stuck Molly at the end of her kicks consistently, but I feel like Molly is the more adaptable and damaging fighter of the two. I think McCann gets the TKO on the second round. I don't think that is too hot of a take. Meatball Molly isn't bad. I pay for Jack's like Patreon and he has the same take. Maybe it's the Schadenfreude that people have with her. Yeah, I think it's she got so overhyped. And mostly because of the Paddy association. So I guess like people went to like the opposite side. Like they were like, oh, Molly's like the worst. And it's like overcompensation. Like she's okay. And to be honest, she looked in great shape in her debut at 115. She still has flaws. I'm not saying like she's future champion or even like top 5 material, but she looked very solid. So I'm kind of excited to see how she looks here, especially because she will have to like fight this long kicker in this fight against Bruna Brasil. So that's quite interesting, right? She's kind of used to fight like longer fighters, especially because she was up at 125. But still, like, it's a cool matchup. And when she gets going, she's so aggressive. Like, I was, to be honest, watching tape for this fight, I was liking the elbows, like, quite a lot. Like, the elbows were cool. The hot take is that I like elbows. That's the new hot take. Okay, next one is the one that I'm very, very excited about. Next fight will be contested at featherweight, and it's a matchup between Nathaniel Wood and Daniel Pineda. So Wood, a stocky and athletic striker with skills in every phase, Wood looks to walk people down behind a high guard from which he can counter with quick hands, either with catch and pitch counters or off slips and fades. Hard leg kicks that he can throw leading or as a counter to opposing kicks, and sneaky snap kicks to the body that he can throw long or up close complement his game well and allow him to compete at long distance despite his stature. His defense is good and layered, being the owner of good footwork and head movement complemented by his already mentioned high guard. He's mostly susceptible to stray shots hidden behind feints at long range and can be timed by same-time counters when forced to close the distance. Very good inside the clinch where he mixes his dirty boxing with slick trips and foot sweeps. Coupled with his good footwork, he's able to control exchanges there, keeping his opponents in their toes despite his usual size disadvantage. Wood is decently strong from top position but can struggle to get ground and pound going against longer foes who can use posts to get back up. So far at 145, his takedown defense has looked pretty solid, aided by his stocky build and wide base. Prolonged exchanges against the fence and shots during transition have been the way to take him down. A good scrambler, but can be controlled if put flat on his back by bigger guys. His ground and pound and back takes are strong suits. Wood is tough, well conditioned and adaptable, but being undersized for the division, he has had to rely on big actions to compete, and that can be draining and expose him to counterattacks. Pineda, a veteran of 43 fights, Pineda is a stocky athlete who remains dynamic at his 38 years old of age. At range, Pineda mostly scores with huge leg kicks that he throws with little to no setup, counting on his timing to do so, but he's open to being countered when throwing them. He pairs with big leg kicks with front kicks to the body and a variety of spinning kicks that play well into the reaction of the initial feint. Very right hand heavy, Pineda will close the distance after a measuring jab or a double jab, looking to set up his big over right hand or right uppercut. Inside the pocket, he will throw the left hook and has good eyes for slipping and coming back with big counters, but he doesn't have a system for his defense and relies a lot on his reactions. On the outside, he has been vulnerable to stray shots but has good sense of distance and can defend kicks decently well, being good at catching kicks. Aided by his frame and physical strength, Pineda is a solid, if not a very technical wrestler, who is content to grind against the cage looking for opportunities to drop to the legs for a double leg, or to catch a snap down to get his front headlock game going. A very good grappler, Pineda is very heavy from top position, and he trusts his guillotine game, and he not only has option to bail out of unsuccessful attempts, but can use it to improve positions. A very heavy ground and pound and good back take with good rear naked choke round up his grappling game. Pineda is durable and incredibly tough, but his lack of process and cardio at his age can cost him against high-level fighters. Wood finds himself once again as the smaller fighter. It is now usual at 145. Despite Pineda's stocky frame, he will still be the taller fighter in this matchup, and most likely the more powerful and physical imposing one. Wood will look to have a big speed advantage in this one and will have to make use of it and his craft to win this fight. Pineda is dangerous in the counter, but Wood can probably exploit some of his tendencies with his nuanced variety and his constant feinting. Wood needs to be mostly careful with the top game of Pineda, as he's very heavy from top and his ground and pound and chokes will be an ever-present danger. If Wood is able to fight grips early and doesn't get into grind exchanges against the fence, he should be just fine, but he will need to land big shots and keep a high pace if he wants to keep Pineda off him. This is a harder fight for Wood than what it seems like at first glance, but I think he gets it done, so I'm picking Wood to win a decision. It was just one of those overcorrections where a bunch of dogs thought she was really good and then a bunch of nerds said she was really bad. Yeah, I mean, Molly McCann is just okay. He's like, especially because she has improved, so I think she's like fine to watch. I'd rather watch Molly McCann than like basically most like heavyweights and heavyweights. Most middleweights even, probably, to be honest. Like 115 is a lot better than middleweight. That should not be controversial, right? Wood's foot sweep in the clinch is quite cool. Yeah. Do you think Wood could get better entries by showing the jab and change level with the jab? Yeah, I think the clinch entries by Wood are like pretty reactive. I think he could be more like proactive when grabbing clinches. I mean, he actually like times well. He on the reactive side, like he changes levels and grabs underhooks. Or has like an overhook with a collar tie. I think those entries are like perfectly fine by Wood, but if he would have like options to get there himself without waiting for the opponent to close the distance, that would be pretty good. I'm not sure if I want Wood to clinch with Pineda though, just because Pineda is so fucking strong. But Wood could get stuff done, especially if he goes like very quick into the foot sweeps and uses like the making Pineda lose balance to attack him in there, maybe like get to the ground or something. I'm not sure if I want Wood to grapple here either. Just because Pineda is so fucking strong, man. Real Sosan says, I'm quite hyped for this fight. Can Pineda just counter and get reactive takedowns? Yeah, that's like the most dangerous part. Is like Pineda just like changing levels and muscling him down to the ground. That would be dangerous, right? Especially Pineda is so dangerous from top position. Wood versus Casey Kenny was quite fun. Yeah, I love it, that fight. When I was very excited about that fight had me very excited about Casey Kenny, and then to be honest, like I thought Casey Kenny won against Dominic Cruz. That's like an actual, like not like a mild take that I'm saying to try to sound controversial, like an actually kind of hot take. But yeah, I think Casey Kenny good. He didn't have like a great showing against Song Yadong. Didn't get like embarrassed, but yeah, I mean pretty clear fight for Song Yadong there. But yeah, Casey Kenny was pretty good, and Nate Wood was great at bantamweight. I'm guessing he would have like a greater ceiling at 135, but if he cannot make the weight consistently, he has looked just fine at 145. It's not like the Christian Rodrigues kind of situation where I actually want him to drop down back. Like I'm fine with Nate Wood at 145. Maybe he could get to be like top 15, maybe. Featherweight is tough, and the dudes are so fucking big, right? But he's doing fine. I'm expecting him to win this Saturday, but could be tough one. Pineda is dangerous. It's the grappling, man. That has me worried. The grappling has me worried. Oh, okay. We got to the main card. Okay. And with that, we get to the main card. We have a featherweight bout, another one. This one pits Arnold Allen against Giga Chikadze. Let's begin with Allen. A TriStar southpaw that mostly likes to move on the outside. Allen has good jab and moves side to side. Fights the lead hand well to set up his janky but very powerful left hand, which he can also throw in the form of an uppercut or to the body. Allen is light on his feet with bouncy footwork, and he will look to close the distance, stepping in with combinations, and he will look to move his head or his feet after attacking consistently. Not usually an active kicker, Allen packs big power with his leg as well, and can play the southpaw double attack effectively. When put on the defensive, Allen will either cover up or frame with one arm trying to hide behind his lead shoulder, and has good discipline about circling, but his upper body and footwork can look disjointed at times. He's good at transitions. Allen can change levels of his left hand, and is also good at finding strikes off clinch breaks. Despite what appears to be clumsy mechanic at times, Allen is a good athlete, being agile and physically strong for the division. This aids him in his wrestling and grappling endeavors, where he's strong in tie-ups and quick to generate scrambles. He has been susceptible to level changes in the past, and improvements on prolonged mat wrestling exchanges remain to be seen, even though we saw a little bit of that against Ibloyev, especially late into the fight. When it comes to striking, his biggest flaws are his susceptibleness to leg kicks and his tendency to get wild during exchanges, throwing wide and not moving his head, thrusting his power. Very good chin, cardio, and resolve. Against him, we have Giga, a natural southpaw. Chikadze is a former kickboxer who can switch stances and likes to fight from a long distance, keeping people on the outside of his powerful and dexterous kicks, that he can fire from both legs and both stances. A decent mover on the outside, Giga has good footwork, but his movements can tend to be on the wide side of things. But he makes up for it with good feinting and misdirections. A brutal kicker, Giga will measure with side kicks, looking to land his powerful rear kicks to all 3 levels, especially from his dominant left side, and he can change up things with knees against fighters close in the distance. While not much of a boxer in the traditional sense, Chikadze is a hard and accurate puncher. He has good straight shots from distance that he pairs well with his kicks, and has surprisingly heavy hooks on the inside. Defensively, Giga depends a lot on distance and movement. He can move his head when trapped against the fence, but he's inconsistent with it. A solid defensive grappler, Giga has been hard to take down, but he has been vulnerable to bodylock attacks, particularly in open space. From his back, he's relying on either pushing off the hips or trying some submission attack to create space. Giga has trouble when fighters put a pace on him and don't allow him to dictate exchanges and open space. His cardio seems to be fine, but his big actions can make him tired if forced to a fight that he's uncomfortable with. This is a very interesting fight between southpaw strikers. I would expect Giga to do what he always does, and Allen here to play 2 roles. The first one of the fighter of moving forwards, which makes Giga less effective overall, if still very dangerous. And second, the role of a generalist as the more well-rounded fighter, and that will help with convincing Giga to move backwards. Allen will have to take risk in this one. Walking Giga down is easier said than done, as he is a more dangerous threat inside the pocket than many expect. But I think Allen does have a few good tools to make it work. Other than the wrestling and his ability to find success in transition, Allen does have a solid calf kick in close stance matchups, and that has troubled Giga in the past. And while he can be wild himself and maybe the less polished puncher inside, I think he remains more comfortable in chaotic exchanges. Plus, he will have an advantage inside the clinch as the fight goes on. I expect the first round to be competitive, probably in favor of Giga, discarding an early KO either way. But after that, I expect Allen to take over with pace and well-roundedness. My pick is Allen by decision. So James Kendrick, how does a fighter fix clumsy mechanics in striking exchanges? That one is kind of hard. I mean, it's like you gotta work on that during. Obviously, you want to polish up your mechanics very well with partner drills and hitting the mids, hitting the back. You gotta be like careful with your mechanics, but then you just gotta like get them to the point that you always do that in sparring, right? And you gotta like start incorporating them during like light sparring, and then like you gotta be like going more and more to try to get like better mechanics during the hard sparring, right? I think we all have a tendency to get like, especially if we are fighting like kind of scared, we all get like more wider because with even those you as a fighter, you have drilled like a million times how to throw like a wide hook. When the adrenaline is pumping and all that, you tend to throw wide, right? So you want to minimize that. The way to do that is like having like very like ingrained mechanics in your brain, just for a million of repetitions. And also being more comfortable on the inside. If you're not panicking, you have a lot more control over your tools. So when you see a fighter that it's usually like very tight mechanically and you see them like throw wide, it's because they are like nervous, they're tired, and they're like scared. And I'm not saying scared like a bad thing. Like when you're losing control of stuff, it's normal to fear your opponent, right? That's like the correct reaction that you should have as a human being. Ghost asked me, do you think Allen should keep this in the close stance matchup because Giga likes to switch to an open stance after throwing the low kick? I feel like what Allen should do, because Allen can like switch stances, but I feel like he's a lot better as a southpaw. What I feel like Allen should do is like he should go like straight at Giga when they're open stances. Allen should go like left hand, left kick, and try to move in on him, right? Try to grab a clinch or something, push him against the fence. And anytime that Giga steps into... And when they find themselves in close stance, just go hard with the leg kick. Allen should go higher on the leg kick when they are close stance. If they open up, go immediately high kick or left hand on the open side and keep the pressure on Giga. Try to find those like clinches and try to attack with elbows. Try to put some of that like Calvin Cater on that Giga there. Just like make it rough. Like it's very dangerous to make a fight ugly against Giga because as I said on my breakdown, Giga is a lot more dangerous inside the pocket as a puncher than you would expect because he's just like this karate long kicker. You don't expect him to have like such good hooks, right? But he's so fucking dangerous. Like he fucked up Barbosa on the inside. But you gotta be willing to take that risk. I don't think like Allen could maybe have like a slow fight on the outside with Giga, but that's like too risky, right? Like I would not like to see that. I would like to see pressure. And it is hard to know. Like sometimes TriStar is like very like pressure averse. But I guess I would hope that TriStar, Sahabi brothers, whatever, are going to see that pressuring Giga is like the right move in here. If Allen like sits back on the outside and tries to kick with Giga, I do not think he wins that fight, to be honest. Doesn't Allen work at TriStar? Do you know why their jabs are good and the right hand's like goofy? I actually don't know why the right hand at TriStar are like kinda sketchy, man. There's gotta be something. Even guys that are like right hand heavy, like for example Ayman Sahabi loves his right hand, but he's like goofy with the right hand. Like that's the exact definition. There's gotta be just because they drill that overhand into takedown so much that they drill more that than any kind of like inside the pocket kind of right hand. That there's gotta be something there, right? And I'm guessing like he doesn't. I feel like Firas probably feels like if you're moving on the outside, the right hand is a bit of a like dangerous move because you're square your hips and all of that. So they have like this very like deeping overhand to the outside that pairs well with the takedown. That would be my best guess, but it's like something that I agree with you. Like the right hands of the TriStar fighters are kind of weird. Here's a question I love asking people. Do you think it's possible to integrate good in fighting in MMA and what adaptations would be required to avoid being smothered? I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, I think you need to be like... Because I'm guessing you're talking about like Barry on the phone booth boxing. And the lines between that and the clinch get so blurred, right? But I feel like you gotta have a good knowledge of grips, because people, when you're so close in MMA, they will try to like grab wrist control, grab a collar tie. So you gotta know those positions and how to counter them. Most of the time, you will not get the other fighter to agree with you to have like a very like in boxing exchange, right? Someone is going to try to grab you. So you need like, I feel like the most important things that you need in those situations is like, first you need the footwork, right? You need the footwork, and with the footwork, especially on the inside, mechanics get a lot more important than on the outside. On the outside, like you can get away with like shitty footwork if the concepts are right. You can move your feet in a kind of wonky way. On the inside, you have to have like very good concepts of taking like good small side steps, stepping back with your rear foot first, And pivoting on the outside is very important if you want to keep the distance and not getting smaller. Because if you pivot outside of the lead shoulder, you're not getting grabbed, right? So that one is very good. Another thing is you being proactive with your grips. Post a lot on your opponent. Post on the shoulder grip. For example, you go jab, post on the shoulder. You go right hand. Now you're covering with what used to be your rear shoulder, but now it's your lead shoulder, and now you can frame with the elbow. That's for giving an example. You gotta have these. You gotta establish those kind of barriers to avoid getting grabbed, right? And you gotta be like getting counters. Like if you got wrist control on your right hand, a strike with the left, try to fight hands, try to quick, and then go pivot, try to generate like this little amount of space when you're still inside boxing distance. It is, but it's something that it's very hard to. It is something that I'm not sure if we're going to see like very soon in MMA, just because of the sparring situations, right? Because to get good at that kind of stuff, you need to like spar a lot in those very small spaces, and someone should like. You're not going to get to that style by chance, right? That's something that you gotta be like very consciously working on. But I think it could be a very, very effective style, especially if you can mix some elbows there, some little like clinch, some dirty boxing, and you can like blur those lines between like inside the phone booth, like loose ties, and then the very close clinch. But I think it's a style that it requires a lot of nuance. And most fighters, how they get nuance, they get that kind of nuance with kinds of nuance with a lot of fighting, actual fighting. Like when you see the good boxers that are very good on the inside, there are guys that have so many fights, especially guys that used to have like an amateur career. And same you see in Muay Thai, guys that do this very like subtle, very nuanced stuff inside the clinch are guys that have been fighting since they are like 14 years old, having like actual real fights, right? Because you don't get to do that so much in sparring, right? Ronan says, shorter man, dirty boxing. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not a lot of people exploiting the advantages of being the shorter fighter in MMA right now. I think Nate Wood is a guy that is actually exploiting some of that stuff. That is actually using, like, because when you're the shorter fighter and guys are trying to lean off you, there's actually like it's kind of easy to pivot when the guy is over you, and we saw a little bit of that with Jan Silva too, with Dover, that he was like very quick to get like the foot sweeps and that kind of stuff like immediately. I'm not saying that he got the foot sweep because he was shorter than Dover. They were like kind of same size, but I mean kind of same height. Dover was for sure the bigger fighter, but you get what I mean? Every time I think of Subriel Matias, I always try to imagine how it would be possible to make him effective in fight work in MMA. No, for sure, man. I love talking about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that the tools, and actually, like, in theory, right? It's not that it's going to happen, but in theory, you should be able to be like a better fighter in MMA than in boxing, just because you have more options and the referees are not going to break it up. But obviously in MMA you gotta worry about so much stuff that it's very unlikely that you're going to see that like 70s or that kind of like 70s, 80s, like insane in fight that you used to see in boxing, right? Let's get back in track. Let's get into the fights. Oh. I have the notes for this one like quite up. Okay. Getting back into the pay-per-view. Next up, we have an action fight at middleweight. It's a fight between Christian Leroy Duncan and Gregory Rodrigues Hovokop. Let's begin with Duncan. A dynamic athlete, Christian Leroy Duncan likes to fight from a wide stance at range, measuring with his lead hand, either framing or fighting hands using a wide variety of feints and kicks to move forwards. Duncan understands the change-up between strikes well, is creative, and is fond of immediate setups to find big strikes. He's not much of a boxer, mostly going for single strikes with his hands, but he has good power with them. While moving forwards, his defense is pretty good, having shown the ability of measure distance well to back up, but also has sneaky head movement that has made finding headshots on him hard. Hitting him on the counter to the body and legs have been effective. His defense on the back foot is another tale, as his footwork gets messy and he can end up turning his back. He keeps moving his head but is susceptible to combos, and his head and his legs and body are even more hittable. Decently strong in the clinch, Duncan is dangerous with elbows and knees from wrist control or collar ties, but can be a bit passive when he finds himself in over-unders. Takedown defense has looked alright so far, but he can be surprised in transitions. Aggressive from his back with elbows and submission attempts, he relies in big movements mostly created by his submissions to create space to get back up. His cardio is surprisingly good despite his style, and his chin seems very solid. Against him we have Gregory Rodrigues, aggressive and well-rounded. Rodrigues is dangerous in multiple areas. A kill cliff and Henry Hoof fighter, Rodrigues is also at his best moving forwards, using his stiff jab and solid footwork to back people up and open up with powerful combinations. A fan of posting with his jab to measure and unload massive right hands, Hovokop also has a stiff but clubbing left hook that he can use to get to the body as well. His defense is somewhat shallow. He relies a lot on exiting range and throws his high guards, parries, and frames to keep himself during exchanges, but he can get wild and over-aggressive and has been countered getting too excited with his offense. The clinch is a strong suit, as Rodrigues is proficient with a variety of throws and is also dangerous with elbows and knees against defense and during transitions. Also a solid wrestler, Rodrigues has a quick level change that he can mix well with his striking at range, and despite not being a nuanced change wrestler, he can come up with the clinch. Rodrigues has good cardio and can fight well tired in case of things getting out of hand. His shins and defense in the pocket has been his biggest flaws, but his recovery is very good and he has heart and toughness for days. Duncan is exactly the kind of dynamic athlete to surprise Hovokop early to put him out, as we have seen a couple of times, but at the same time, Rodrigues is the kind of structured, well-rounded and athletic fighter that can really expose some of the stylistic flaws of Duncan. Both guys are at their best moving forwards, but Hovokop has the wrestling and grappling advantage and won't be afraid to clinch with Duncan. He's also probably better off the back foot as well, but I'm not sure about that one. The chances of Duncan finding a dynamic finish, especially early, aren't small, but it feels wrong to pick against Rodrigues. I'm picking Rodrigues by decision. I think I saw Hovokop try a hand and arm throw. I know if he's like a judo black belt, but he has like very, very good throws. I do not remember. Maybe not a head and arm throw, maybe a headlock. Do you guys differentiate between those? But yeah, but I've seen like Rodrigues hit like Haraigochi. He has the judo, man. If I would have to guess, I would guess that he's a judo practitioner, to be honest, because the throws look very good. And he's a middleweight, by the way. He's not a welterweight. But yeah, that fight is pretty exciting, to be honest. Let's get to the next one. And the next one is like... Oh man, the next one. With that, we move to lightweight. We have King Green, the artist formerly known as Bobby Green, against Paddy Pimblett. Let's begin with Green. Give me a second here. Okay, King Green. Even at 27 years of age, Green remains a dynamic threat with a deep, if disjointed, skill set. As slickster, Bobby Green operates with quick straight shots from both hands at open space, relying on his visions and reflexes to use his shell to defend against whatever is coming his way. Green is always moving both his head and his feet during exchanges and is very good at covering behind his lead shoulder, which means that fighters have needed long combinations or tight counters mid-exchange to catch him clean. Also a decent kicker, Green... oh, excuse me everyone, I'll re-record that part because I'm like... oh god, I'm so tired, man. Kingston, damn, the whole MMA analysis up here. Hey, glad to have you here, man. I just fucked up my recording, so I'll re-record a little bit of that. My notes were kind of wonky to use. Yeah, I need more Rockstar, man. I need more Rockstar. That's actually the problem, that I ran out of Rockstar. Next, we have a fight at lightweight. We have King Green, the artist formerly known as Bobby Green. He fights Paddy Pimblett. So let's begin with Green. Even at 27 years old, King Green remains a dynamic threat with a deep, if disjointed, skill set. At slickster, Green operates with quick straight shots from both hands at open space, relying on his vision and reflexes to use his shell to defend against whatever coming his way. Green is always moving both his head and his feet during exchanges, and is very good at covering behind his lead shoulder, which means that fighters have needed long combinations or tight counters mid-exchange to catch him clean. Also a decent kicker, Green will attack with side kicks to the knees and body, and also has solid calf kicks and body kicks from both legs. Despite his front foot heavy stance, he's a lot harder to kick than it seems, being good at blocking, evading and catching kicks. His clinch game is also solid, using his footwork and grip fighting to set up elbows and knees, and even bodylock takedowns on the counter. Takedown defense is also solid. While Green can be surprised with transitions and exposed by his tall stance, he's a very solid mat wrestler and scrambler, finding grips and taking angles to deny initial shots on the open, but similarly capable if the fight hits the floor, being able to counter wrestler with his own single leg, rolls and a variety of get-ups. While not much of a top control guy, Green has heavy ground and pound if he can establish position, and his rear naked choke is legit. After a mostly inconsistent career, the biggest enemy of Green right now is his age. As he has solved the volume issues of the past, his style still demands a lot of physicality and reflexes, and he plays a dangerous game. Opposed to him, we have Paddy Pimblett. Paddy is a bit of an aimless all-rounder who relies on his ability to compete pretty much everywhere. At range, he will mostly look to land big single shots. He attacks with good variety and throws everything with power, from his punches to his kicks. But he's not afraid to throw the jumping switch variety kind of weird stuff. Pimblett does have some ideas about feigning and playing with the expectation of his strikes, but he's open for counters quite a lot as he doesn't have much in the way of a guard or hip movement when throwing, and he relies on his power and timing to win exchanges. In the clinch, he's physically strong and has some tricks in the form of trips and throws to get the fight to the ground, and he does have a good eye for attacks in transitions, both in the way of damaging strikes and submission attempts from creative positions. Not much of a wrestler, Paddy rarely will look for takedowns outside of the clinch and also doesn't initiate much clinches himself. But he has been prone to being taken down by solid wrestlers, but he does a good job of bouncing back up to his feet. Scrambling is one of his best attributes, being somewhat of a backtake specialist, and his ground pound is also of note. Other than his technical flaws as a striker and defensive wrestler, Pimblett's biggest flaws come in his lack of focus and his over-reliance on his physicality and durability to take over fights. Pimblett is big and a good athlete, but it's hard not to see him hit a wall when he faces athletes of similar or superior caliber who have more coherent and well put together games. Paddy once again faces an opponent with an asterisk. If he wins, it will be hard not to put some good amount of blame on Green's age, wear and tear, Skill-wise, this is the toughest test yet, as Bobby Green holds big advantages on range striking and is one of the best wrestlers that he has faced so far. If Pimblett wins this one, it's hard to see it not being him hurting Green on the feet with some wide strike and then following up on the ground with his high-level grappling. Other than that, Green is still mostly... If King Green is still mostly himself, I have a lot of trouble seeing Paddy achieving any kind of consistent success, as Green will have the cleaner striking, both on offense and defense, and can probably hold his own and even outsmart the Brit inside the clinch. I have a bad feeling about this one, but I cannot get myself to pick Pimblett here. I'm picking Green to win a decision. Someone dash this man a Rockstar. Please, man, send me another. We don't even have cans. This one is super cheap because it comes like in a small bottle. It's not even that small, actually. That's like half a liter. Green has a good body jab. Will that make Paddy overreactive? I mean, the thing with Paddy is that he doesn't have like that. I feel like Paddy can be the kind of guy that will just ignore a body jab. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a good setup, but it could be good to like drain on the gas tank, right? Because Paddy is like very good gas tank, but he's so inefficient. Like everything that Paddy does is so big that he can get tired. We have seen him get kind of tired, especially in the Tony fight. Go says Paddy doesn't get behind his lead shoulder after he throws his right hand. It's kind of weird because he has a good switch kick. Paddy stays squared after the right hand, but the thing is that he has like a very big right hand. He throws so hard, so it's like people are kind of like, do I want to counter this? Because that's the thing about like throwing wide. Like people say, oh, he's open for counters, but when people throw so wide, it's kind of hard to be sure of the arc of the strike. So it can make you like a bit hesitant about counter striking, right? Yes, it's kind of easier. Like when you see a strike shot, it's like just like slip and rip. When you see like the wide, because Paddy doesn't even throw like an overhand, right? He just throws like a winging hook with the right hand, and that can be like I felt like Jared Gordon did a good job of smothering him, but Gordon was like quite a bit smaller than Paddy inside the clinch, and I'm a bit scared about Bobby for that. But Bobby has a more like slick clinch game, right? How big of a factor will be the home court advantage for Paddy? The start time is weird for them, so it should be okay for Green. I feel like Paddy being like a wild guy and a guy that is very confident, like he fits a lot from the crowd, right? When it comes to Green, I feel like he likes like being the bad guy, but he's very confident. But I feel like it can play against him too. So yeah, I mean, I would expect if someone is getting like a big like home crowd advantage in this fight, it's probably going to be Paddy, and especially if it goes to the judges, the big reactions that everything that Paddy will do might sway the judges in his favor, right? Because every time that Paddy lands something on Bobby's like shoulder or something, you know the crowd is going to go crazy, like wow. And you know, like, Paddy has like very good chin, so he might like take a beating by Bobby and no sell some of the shots. So if this one goes to decision, might get sketchy. I didn't want to factor that too much in my prediction, but it could be a thing for sure, man. If you see a weird reaction, like, remember that the crowd is going to go nuts for everything that Paddy lands. And yeah, the judges are human beings. Like, they can be swayed. They can be persuaded. We have seen that in the past. Okay, we have very few fights to go. Actually just 2. So let's get those out of the way. Let me get my notes. Okay. How long have I been alive? Okay. Hasn't been that long. The co-main event is a fight for the interim heavyweight championship that is being defended for some reason. We have Tom Aspinall against Curtis Blaydes. Let's begin with Aspinall, well-rounded, mobile, and athletic kickboxer. Fighting out of a bladed, bouncy stance, Aspinall is uniquely agile for the heavyweight division. At range, he will look to jab or use his quick kicks to score damage and looking to set up his powerful right hand that he can throw straight or looped. If opponents close the distance on him, he can counter with knees, check hook, or grab a clinch where he's good at circling and hitting big elbows and knees during breaks. He has shown good takedowns, driving with the double or surprising with reactive body locks. Top Gain also looks solid with good base for top control, big ground and pound, and good submission finishes. Not much is known in the way of weaknesses for Aspinall so far, but some of his habits could be concerning, especially his defense that mostly relies on either backing up on a straight line or leaning back. Cardio and mental toughness still remain as unknowns at this level. Against him we have Blaydes, a wrestler. Blaydes has been trying to build a consistent game to ironically inconsistent results. A bigger hitter that he gets credit for, Blaydes' striking has been hit and miss. He clearly has a good understanding of footwork, head movement, and rhythm play, but the confidence he puts into applying those concepts vary from opponent to opponent. At his best, Blaydes stays athletic, shooting with decent power and proactively moving away from shots, using the threat of the takedown to set up strikes and vice versa. At his worst, Blaydes can be shaky and sloppy and can present big lapses of poor defense or predictability for his opponent to exploit. His wrestling is obviously his A game, but he has gotten more picky late into his career when it comes to shooting takedowns, waiting for opportunities to get clean on his opponent's hips. A good chain wrestler who can attack the legs and from the clinch, Blaydes shines when he can get his foe flat on his back away from the cage, when he can put his big ground and pound and wrist rights to good use. While cardio is above average for heavyweight division, and he pushes even when fatigue starts to show, his effectiveness can be diminished late into fights. A rematch in which we didn't get to see much at all the first time around since Aspinall injured his knee 15 seconds in. If Blaydes puts it together, he has all the tools to be Aspinall's biggest test yet, especially if he manages to mix the best of his striking with solid takedown entries. The problem for me picking Blaydes here is that even if he gets the fight he wants, a takedown for him is not an immediate finish, and Aspinall, what has shown a bit of fatigue, has also shown a bit of resolve and has been consistently the more dynamic and dangerous fighter of the two. Even if Aspinall concedes a takedown, you would expect him to survive on the floor in most cases for at least a round. But I cannot say the same about Blaydes getting hit by something huge by the Englishman. Predicting Aspinall fights is still very weird to me because we have seen a lot to like, but we still have many questions, and I get the feeling that we will still have a lot of them after this fight. I'm picking Aspinall to get a knockout on round 1. James Kendrick says Aspinall has his chin up in the air when he enters and exits. Yeah, I mean, Aspinall not very good at covering his and hiding behind his shoulder. I mean, actually, when he throws the left hand, he actually naturally covers his chin, but he actually retreats with the chin very high up. Double jab right hand could be the answer. Yes, but you gotta consider that Aspinall has very quick hands and has a very good trigger for counters. So if you're not careful with it, I feel like for Blaydes, if you want like a good idea for Blaydes, I would say a dipping jab could be very safe actually, other than maybe a head kick by Aspinall. But I feel like dipping jab to establish that threat of the takedown and double dipping jab could be a very good idea by Blaydes in this one, to be quite honest. And if they get like exchanges inside the pocket, like we saw Pavlovich rocking Aspinall, like Blaydes just getting a knockout, a straight out knockout is not impossible. This is heavyweight. Blaydes is a decent striker. He has pop. He's a big dude. Could happen. Perfectly fine. How crazy am I for feeling that Blaydes could have beaten Ngannou if they fought? I feel like Blaydes has all the tools to beat Ngannou. But after the 2 losses that he has, I would be very skeptical about the head game of Blaydes. I feel like sometimes like he's too smart for MMA. Like he's an overthinker, and that plays against him. Like he's a very smart guy, and he knows how his work games. That can play against you sometimes, I feel. Maybe for MMA, sometimes being just a feelings guy and not knowing how much of your game is working, and that can be to your advantage, to be honest. Can Aspinall get the Leon Edwards overhook? They're like very similar on height, right? So I mean, it could be, and Aspinall when he goes like to the clinch like very quickly, he's very effective. But I don't know if Aspinall wants to stay inside the clinch in this one. Not that Blaydes is like super dangerous, but yeah, I mean, I think Aspinall could be surprised if he stays on the clinch too long against Blaydes. Like Aspinall is very, very used to be like, oh, the big brothering guys, you know? And he has like this sleek clinch techniques. To be honest, I would be very interested to see like the clinch between like Aspinall and Gunn. And here I am again, like talking about Gunn when everyone hates Gunn, but it's whatever. I would be actually very surprised, very interested to see that. The clinch could be very interesting. I really want Aspinall versus Blaydes to go long. I don't care who wins. I just want this to go long to get more data on Tom Aspinall, dude. Like, I don't know, man. I just want to know more about this guy. What are his weaknesses? How good he actually is? Like, he hasn't shown any kind of ceiling. We know so little about Tom Aspinall. All we know is that he keeps his chin high, and he can take a pretty decent punch because Pavlovich hit him pretty hard. But yeah, I want to know more. Aspinall is neat when he does like the short clinches and goes to knees and elbows and that kind of shit. That's pretty cool. Would that work against Blaydes? I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. I would want like Blaydes should shoot a takedown like early to know what's the deal with this fight, you know. But Aspinall like actually having like a top game, and he might be scared of, oh, what if I get reversed and I find myself on bottom position, you know. Hopefully not. I just really want these guys to have like an actual fight and not be like another Aspinall showcase. Like, it gets kind of boring, right? Am I the only one that it's like, if Aspinall just gets like squash matches all the time, that would be boring? I want answers about this guy. It's not that I want him to. I want to see him lose. I just want to see an actual fight, man. For most high-ranking fights, I hate when they go short. Yeah. I want to see I want to see the matchup play out, right? Unless it's like Colby Covington. Colby Covington can get fucked. He can get finished in the first second of the fight for all I care. But for most fights, yeah, I want to see like the fight actually play out, get answers, how the matchup goes about, right? I would like to see that. Okay, let's get into the main event. I don't have any script for this one, so we'll just say stuff. This one is probably going to be a mess. And with that, we get to the main event. We have another rematch. Leon Edwards defends his title against Belal Muhammad. So this is a rematch, as I just said. We saw one round between these guys, and obviously the first fight ended up in a like super bad eye poke, and now Belal finally gets his rematch that he has been denied for quite a while, because it's like kind of clear that the UFC doesn't like him in that way, right? The UFC likes Belal Muhammad just fine. They just don't want him to be champion. And now these guys are rematching on Leon's home. So, okay, what went on the first fight? Actually, I don't think we can get that much away from the first one, as most people say. First round was like pretty one-sided, very clear win for Leon Edwards on that first round. But it wasn't like Belal didn't have anything for him. So a few interesting things. Leon clearly has a range striking advantage. He was getting the cleaner shots, for sure. Especially the change-up between the left hand and the clicks, the southpaw attack, that kind of stuff, that was working very well. But Belal was having some success with the jab, which is like a very good look, right? Second, the clinch was not that dominant for Edwards, and that's something that Leon usually wants to have. Belal was very active in pummeling, in attacking elbows during breaks. That was very interesting to see. It would be interesting to see how that plays out as the fight goes long. But another factor that plays into Leon is that the first fight was in a small cage, and Belal was not able to make Leon super uncomfortable on the first fight. Despite the small cage, Leon was not pressed to the cage a lot, and now they're fighting on the bigger cage, of course. And Leon will have a lot more freedom with his movement, and that he's very good with that. So, what's going on here? Well, let's talk about some improvements, right? I feel like Leon, if he shows in top shape, like if he did for the Usman rematch, he has fixed some of the volume problems. It's not that he didn't have like a high output in the first fight against Belal, but Leon was all like either like very subtle controlling actions or the big powerful strikes. And I feel like he has a lot more like consistent damaging output that is not very high energy on the Usman fight, especially like snap kicks to the body, some leg kicks, some short like left hands without much pop on them. I feel like those are very good qualities that Leon should apply in this fight. When it comes to Belal, I feel like has improved his ability to switch stances. That could be useful against Leon. I would be interested to see Belal like trying more open side body kicks, or trying like calf kicks in close stance against Edwards, now that he feels like more comfortable. The 1-2 of Belal I feel like has improved as well, and considering that he had a bit of success with his jab on the first time around, that would be interesting to see. How the fight plays out long, it's like obviously the big question, because neither of these guys are like huge finishers. Obviously either guy could get a finish, like these are big dudes, right? Like I guess people do not see welterweights like super big guys, but these are guys that big enough that a finish either way would not be crazy. But let's say that this fight goes long. I feel like Leon for sure will get reads, and he can build on his success and fighting what's working, and he's like the more nuanced, layered striker for sure. But Belal can also find answers. He's pretty good at doing very little and finding what's working, even if it's like very primitive, like we saw in the Brady fight, when he just made small adjustments to his 1-2 and upping the pressure and just keeping at it until he found the finish. But what concerns me for Leon Edwards here is that he loses focus. That's a thing that always happened to him. the problem for Belal is that he will not like super aggressively take over if Leon tires. I mean, not tires, loses focus, right? If Leon like loses the eye on the ball, Belal start like landing strikes and grabbing clinches and even like gets a takedown or something, I feel like Leon can still recover from that, right? So Belal, I feel Belal, what Belal Muhammad needs to try to do, I feel like Belal needs a more aggressive first round. He needs to be taxing, make this a taxing fight for Leon Edwards, right? What tactics he can use? The jab from the first fight, initiating clinches. Initiate clinches early and often. Even though Leon Edwards is going to win some of the exchanges, we do not see much of that actually on the first fight. So Belal should grab clinches, be aggressive inside the clinch, kick, just open side kick when they are open stances, calf kick when they are closed stances, 1-2s, jabs. Just do active, just keep the gas on the pedal. Push Leon Edwards backwards. Even though Leon has good footwork, he's going to be hard to put against the fence. It's not so much about putting Leon against the fence and making him defend takedowns. Just make this a hard fight. Make this a fight in which Leon needs to be thinking, because he's a guy that thinks inside fights. And I know Belal also is a thinking guy, but he's just because he plays more of this simple game, I feel like the fight is easier on him mentally, right? When it comes to Leon, I feel like if Leon he can get on the front foot, that would be very well, because Belal's defense on the outside is not that great, man. So I feel like it is a lot better if he can like make use of his pivots when Belal is trying to move forward, change things around, put Belal against the fence, pot shot, the snap kick to the body will be useful, leg kicks, body kicks, the head kick. Just establish the threat of the head kick like time and time again, man. Leon needs to be... I feel like needs to be more picky with the clinches. It's like Leon is used to have like this big clinch advantage, and I feel like Belal can compete decently well with Leon Edwards inside the clinch, so I feel like he needs to be like, grab a clinch, strike, get out immediately. Not because Belal Muhammad is going to win inside the clinch, but just because it's not like a place that he will have this big advantage. I feel like Leon does have a big advantage at range, and he can make the better reads of the two. He's the better, like, pure striker, right? So just like accumulate damage, keep active, does not try to make it like super complex. Do not try to set up like a long nuanced takedown on the guy. Just take whatever Belal is giving you and attack. Keep the output. I think output will be super important for both guys in this fight. I feel like the improvements of Belal are very good for him in this fight. I feel like Belal has a decent shot here to win rounds, especially if Leon like just starts moving back and Belal just keeps with the kicks, keeps with the 1-2s. Takedowns either way I find hard to see, to be honest. Belal has improved a lot as a wrestler, but Leon is tremendous defending takedowns, and Belal Muhammad is tremendous defending takedowns himself. On the first fight, we saw Leon Edwards try to sweep him on one foot. He did not get anything going. Belal is super hard to take down himself. I think that's a very underrated part. And Leon Edwards likes his own takedowns, right? Especially when he wants to like big brother, like he tried against Colby Covington. I'm not sure that's going to work against Belal Muhammad. So yeah, the keys. Belal is more pace than pressure, right? It's not so much about pressing Leon backwards. It's make Leon fight. Make Leon fight. More actions per second are better for Belal Muhammad. That will make Leon Edwards show the gaps. Have those lapses in his defense. When it comes to Leon Edwards, the keys is keep it a long range. Try to control the exchanges with your tools, with your long range tools. Use the snap kicks to the body. Use your jab. Use your footwork. Use the pivots to move on the outside, right? But Leon also needs like a high volume, but he doesn't need a very taxing high volume. He just needs the right amount to control exchanges and then find the openings and exploit the openings like time and time again. I would not advise either guy to count on takedowns. If they are there, go for them, but I would not say to either Belal or Leon to just go hard at takedowns in this fight, because both are so solid as defensive wrestlers, and you don't want to be tired in this fight, right? When it comes to the pick, I feel like I'm not as confident as everyone else, but I still gotta pick Leon Edwards, just because I feel like if it goes long and both guys are making reads, I feel like Leon Edwards will have bigger moments. He's the bigger puncher here. He's the sneakier striker. I feel like he can hurt Belal Muhammad more than once in this fight. He can outpoint Belal Muhammad like he already did in the first fight. But Leon, I would not be surprised at all if we see Leon Edwards dropping a round or two here. So decision victory for Belal is not impossible. That's my hot take here. But my final pick is that Leon Edwards wins a decision. That's the final pick. And that would be the podcast, guys. So this event is pretty good actually. They're not doing the British fans dirty like they have done in the past, I feel. Let's get into some fights that I'm interested here. Okay, Mohamed Mokaev against Manuel Kape, maybe not the best fight when it comes to action, if it goes like I expect, but very important. Well, one of the most important fights in the whole card. I'm very interested to see this. So yeah, that's one to look for. Loughran against Jake Hadley is very interesting. Too bad that it's like short notice for Hadley, especially because he's moving up a weight class. But he still has some interesting tools to present here. And it's bantamweight, bantamweight is always going to be good. The controversial one is that I feel like Molly McCann versus Bruna Brasil, especially with the atmosphere of the public and all of that, that's going to be like a fun watch. Especially because McCann is going to bring the violence in that one. And Brasil is like tough, and she has kicks. It could be a good fight. Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda is like the hidden gem in this event, right? This is like the action fight that is going to be super fun to watch. Then the main card is all bangers, man. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Gregory Rodrigues is in the main card for a reason. It's going to be action-packed. Ardelean versus Chikadze is going to deliver. Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett is going to have us on the edge of our seats, right? And then you have two fights for titles. So yeah, I mean, it's a very good card. It's a very good card, man. I like it. I'm not gonna lie. And it's a lot of fights, and there's like not a single fight that I hate. Not even like Shauna Bannon versus Alice Ardelean is a fight that I dislike, to be honest. Mick Parkin versus Brzeski is probably going to be okay for a heavyweight fight. Paterson versus Crosbie, and Elliott versus Preston Parsons. Like, everything here. Bukauskas versus Prachnio is fine. Like, it's like, as I said like last week, talking about the other event, most of the fights that the UFC puts on are okay, to be honest. Like, it's not often that the UFC puts on like an unwatchable fight. The problem is that you cannot make a card of only okay fights, right? But when you have like very good fights like you have here, like you have like 4 or 5 very good fights, and you add the okay fights and they are well matched up, I'm okay with that. This is a good event. I'm excited for this one. I'm very excited to see Leon Edwards back in action. I feel like it's a compelling matchup against Belal Muhammad. I want to see answers from Aspinall. I want to see answers from Paddy Pimblett. Very excited overall. Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze is huge. So yeah, I'm very excited. 1 to 10, I'm like an 8 of excitement about this one. Remember, guys, that if you want to support the Fight Sites as an ongoing project, you can sign up to our Patreon. You can get access to a big library of exclusive content, and you can also get access to our Discord server where you can chat about fights and life with very cool people. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for everyone that have sent like good vibes my way, because this week has been awful for me, quite honest. So thank you so much, and I leave it at that. Catch you on the next one, guys. Bye. Okay, I'll be here like hanging out for a little bit. That was just the outro of the recorded version of the podcast. Let me catch up with some chats before. I mean, I want to hang out for a little bit because I had my Rockstar, right? So I'm not going to sleep like super quick. Okay. Rio Sosen says, are you a fan of Leon Edwards' clinch tactics? I've seen the first fight with Belal that when Belal would break with elbows, he was very effective. Yeah, I think Leon is very good in the clinch, one of the best in MMA. But I think Belal kind of underrated. He came very well prepared on the first fight, and as I said during the recording, I was very surprised to see that Belal was very competitive inside the clinch. And I would be interested to see if Belal can push Leon to the fence and work a little bit there, because I feel like Leon can't get too passive inside the clinch despite being so good. The problem is that Leon has the superior footwork when it comes to clinching, and that's something that I like a lot about Leon Edwards. But Belal was very close with some nasty elbows on the first fight, so I'm very excited to see how the clinch plays out. But yeah, I feel like Belal comes very well prepared with some like specific tactics other than the big overarching like game plan. So that's some interesting thing to see. In the Brady fight, Belal likes to parry and dip to his rear side. Good idea for Leon to just show the head kick. Yeah, for sure. I feel like Leon needs to show the head kick early, especially to make Belal's head to stay in one place, right? Because Leon has that kind of head kick that makes you like scared about sleeping to the outside. So I agree. He should kick him on his toes. And remember that he rocked him pretty bad with a block head kick on the first fight. So he needs to remind him of, hey, I have this weapon here and I can fuck you up with that. I'm seeing people on the MMA side favor Belal because he wants it more. Why do you think that is? Because they interview him a lot. I don't know. I feel like people have seen Leon like ghost, I guess, and they think he doesn't want it that bad. I feel like Leon is very calculated, and when Leon was like completely okay with losing that 5th round to Colby Covington doing dumb shit because he knew he won, right? So he wants on the bottom. At the end of the 5th round against Colby, and he didn't try and escape because he knew he won already, and winning is the most important thing for Leon Edwards. He's willing to do anything to win, right? Like there's a lot of other things. So I think Belal just like comes across as a more passionate guy, and people think that. I think Belal is a very hardworking guy. He really wants it, but yeah, like saying like who wants it more, like it doesn't come to that, right? It comes to who is the better fighter in this specific matchup at the end of the day. Do you think the twist kick, Cyril Gane twist kick will be relevant here? I think it would be a very solid idea against Belal. Especially because you want to go. I would advise Leon Edwards to go to the body a lot here, just because I would think that Belal probably has a small like cardio advantage, and you want to equalize that as most as possible, right? And Belal also fights from like a squared stance, right? So the opening will be there. And Belal, now that Belal is also like changing stances and that, if Leon can time the change of stances and boom, a snap kick to the body in those transitions, that could be a very good tool. What was your opinion on Leon versus Kamaru 3 as a fight? Masterclass by Leon? Yeah, that was tremendous fight. I scored every round for Leon Edwards in his fight against Kamaru Usman, the third one. I was very impressed with Leon Edwards, the best performance of his career by far. he looked amazing in that fight. I was very impressed by that, and I was a little bit let down against Colby Covington, but it was alright. Like I know that Leon was very nervous about Colby Covington. He was more about I don't want to lose to these guys. So I understand that that fight was kind of made by Leon, but it was okay. Sending you good vibes, Stefania. Thank you so much, Rio. Do you think that the key to Leon versus Belal is the one that establishes their jab first? Could be, but there are some stuff that could prevent that. Especially because Leon can fight behind the jab, but can also get like very like hand fighty. So maybe like, I'm not sure if Leon is going to try to deny the jab of Belal Muhammad here. The fight of the lead hand could get very interesting, because if both guys are trying to jab, it might be the key that who's landing the jab more, because that gets to dictate the pace of the fight. So that could be very well be. But it all depends on what Leon comes to do. If Leon comes to jab himself, yeah. But if Leon comes like to trap the lead hand of Belal, or if Belal fights more southpaw in this fight, that could be very interesting, right? The really top welterweights are fun, but they need to sort out the division. Yeah, it's like, I'm very excited to see whoever wins between Leon and Belal, how the fights go against like Jack Della and Shavkat, and I guess Brady. Not Brady. Machado Gary is up there too, right? And then you have Brady a little bit down the line. But yeah, the Della and Shavkat, man, I wanted to see those guys against either of these, or against Usman. I guess Usman is coming back to welterweight. Very cool, man. Very cool. It's weird because like when we have like low tier welterweight fights, they are like kind of mid so some of the time, but like Shavkat and Jack Della are so cool. Belal did way better in the first fight than I thought on first watch. The second round wasn't awful for him. Yeah, Belal I thought was doing okay. Like losing our first round to Leon Edwards, like Leon, people think he's a low starter, but he actually like controls the action of the first round very well most of the time. Remember that Leon won the first round against Usman in the second fight, right? So Leon, it wasn't like super clear that Leon was going to win after the first round to me. It's like obviously the most likely outcome, but it's not like, oh, Belal is lost. Belal cannot win this one. It's impossible. Why are people so high on Shavkat beating Leon? Don't people realize that both are great in clinch? Yeah, I feel like the Neil fight actually revealed a lot of like weaknesses that Shavkat could have, like especially during clinch breaks and the distance striking. Like there are avenues for Leon to win against Shavkat for sure. I do not think that Shavkat is like unbeatable or anything, right? I just think that it is a very cool fight. Without watching tape, like specifically for the fight, if I would have to pick, I would have to pick Leon right now, because Leon can compete with Shavkat at range. He can compete in the clinch, and he can defend the takedowns. So Leon and Shavkat's defense is like sketchy, like not bad. Like he can move his head well, but he has a very risky style, right? And Leon like can pop, right? And has the head kicks too. We have not seen like Shavkat very good at catching kicks, so that would be very cool to see. But still, like he has like the kind of stiff head movement. I could see Leon like landing good kicks on Shavkat. Jorge Lopez says, "Don't got much I can add to the conversation. Just want to say that I've really been enjoying these card previews. Always super chill and great to watch while having a smoke on the porch. Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. Always super grateful to have people here listening to this bullshit while I'm rambling about fights. So if I can provide any kind of entertainment or insight, I'm very happy to do so. It's weird. I've seen people say that Leon is just keeping the belt one for Shavkat. Yeah, I mean, it's very, like there's a lot of MMA fans that are just very weird about the fights for the former USSR countries. Let's say like that. I mean, nothing wrong with liking Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like, it's a very cool fighter, right? But it's like the Hamza Chimaev thing, right? Like, you gotta wait to see him against a very top elite fighter before making those. And to be honest, like, Shavkat has legit wins in Jeff Neal and Wonderboy, right? But it's not like Jeff Neal and Wonderboy are invincible. It's like, if you go to the matchup, it looks very close. And Shavkat is not like a super hard pressurer or is like super high output. So I feel like they would have a close fight, if anything, to be quite honest. Is this card good from beginning to end? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, what's the worst fight in here? Like, the first two fights are like the worst ones, and I'm fine with both. Like, Shauna Bannon versus Ardelean is probably going to be okay, and Mick Parkin versus Lucas Brzeski is probably going to be okay. Like, they are not going to be like super high level action, but they're going to be watchable and to like get going. And then, like, you have like two low level welterweight fights here: Sam Paterson versus Kiefer Crosbie and Ovan Elliott versus Preston Parsons. Both are like interesting, actually. Both are interesting, and the other thing is that the atmosphere here is going to be crazy. The crowd is going to be going nuts for the fighters from the United Kingdom or whatever. So yeah. I skipped the last two cards, which I don't often do, but the matchup were crazy, not the good crazy. How are they gonna hype up Ardelean? I mean, Ardelean is very aggressive, man, and she's athletic, so Ardelean could very well, like... Yeah, I mean, but they don't really need to hype her, because I'm guessing the UFC here wants Shauna Bannon to win. And she might not win, actually. I know I picked Shauna Bannon, and I'm kind of regretting it, because I feel like... But I feel like, yeah, I mean, Ardelean is like kind of short notice, and Bannon will have the home crowd and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I went with Bannon at the end. But Ardelean feels like a bad matchup for her. Shauna Bannon really needs to keep like the kicking distance on this one to win, to be quite honest. Ardelean is probably the more athletic and bigger girl of the two. I wonder if she will make weight though. I think it's crazy that Mokaev versus Kape is on the prelims. That's the one thing that I find very weird, to be honest. That's like the head scratcher moment for me here. So yeah, I mean, if you want to let me get some thoughts on this card, like at the end, the worst fights in here are Shauna Bannon versus Alice Ardelean, Mick Parkin versus Lucas Brzeski, and Modestas Bukauskas versus Marcin Prachnio. Those are the worst, and I think they are fine. To be honest. They're okay. Bukauskas versus Prachnio is interesting because it's like a mirror match between kickers, and we don't often get to see that kind of fight. So I think they match up well to have like an interesting fight. They could have like a boring like kiki fight at distance, but I doubt so. Like they're kind of... Then Mick Parkin can be very boring, but I think Lucas Brzeski, you gotta admit that Lucas Brzeski brings it. So the only way that this fight sucks is if Mick Parkin just like single legs him all night, and Brzeski doesn't have an answer. But even there, like, Lucas Brzeski just turns his back a lot, and Mick Parkin has like an actual rear naked choke. So, and Bannon versus Ardelean, like, it's not going to be good, but it's going to be like action packed. Ardelean is super aggressive, and Shauna Bannon will bring the kicks. Are either Bukauskas or Prachnio British? No. Bukauskas is from Bulgaria, I think. No, he's from Lithuania. And Prachnio is Polish. So they're just like European fighters that train out of Europe, so they are kind of close to home. So that's why they put this fight here. It's actually the only fight without someone from the United Kingdom in the whole card. So that's interesting. Another interesting thing is that some fighters here in Tapology have the England flag, and others have the Union Jack. That's kind of weird, to be honest. Does anyone know how that works? Because, for example, Sam Paterson has the Union Jack, and he's fighting out of Walford, England. And then Tom Aspinall has the English flag, and he fights out of Liverpool, England. So, and Leon Edwards has the Union Jack. So do they choose, or how does Tapology determines these things, right? This is like the most stupid thing that I'm wondering, but I'm still kind of curious. Thoughts on custom shorts? I've been liking most of the custom shorts. Some are very cool. Yang Wei Li, by the way, have very cool shorts. The new ones, to be honest, the Paddy Pimblett, like, they're just like a color swap, just like the purple ones that Ian Gary wore. I thought they looked great. I thought they look great. I think that the Venom shirts that they're using right now are okay. I don't hate them. It's just bad that not everyone has custom shorts. But I think the Paddy orange ones are cool. And I love the Leon ones. The Leon ones, because they are like this emerald green. And they have the Union Jack with the Jamaica flag. Fucking great, man. I love them. Maybe I'm not big into flags, because I'm that kind of person that hates flags. But I feel like the Leon Edwards shorts look very, very cool. Maybe my favorite right now. The custom shorts are crazy because the UFC advertises how cool they are, but they only have like... Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I feel like the UFC is doing this like very limited amount of shorts because they want to sell them very well, and they know if they flood the UFC store with custom shorts, they're not going to sell well. And you gotta understand that the shorts that the UFC are selling right now are like over like 100 pounds. I feel like they're 150 pounds. It's so stupid expensive. So if they like just flood the market with 1,000 shorts, they're not going to sell all of them. So I feel like it is a marketing decision at the end of the day. Red Free is giving us his predictions right here. Leon TKO in round 4. That's interesting. I feel like Belal is very hard to finish. Aspinall TKO round 2. I was thinking round 2, but I ended up going round 1 because like Aspinall is like that. He just finishes all the time. Green by TKO in the 3rd. That one I see hard. Like, Paddy's very tough, man. We need to get Whaley to get our handles on her shirt. That would be fantastic, man. But the UFC is not going to allow that. The UFC are control freaks. They don't allow anyone to have fun. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. We had fun. The chat was cool as always. I'm so thankful for all of you. I will be publishing the recorded version tomorrow, I think. Thank you for being here. Hope you guys had fun listening to me talking about stupid fights. And I'll see you on Twitter as always. Those of you that are in the Patreon Discord, go there. And that's it for the transmission. We had a good time. Thank you so much. Catch you on the next one. Bye, guys. I mean, bye, guys. When I remember how you stop streaming. Oh.